But do magicians need a logo?
I think it depends on what level you are as a magician or how you're branding yourself, I guess.
Right.
For me, I don't have a set logo. I just use various different fonts, and I'll represent my name, which is Graham Reed, aka Gramazing, in different ways, but it usually represents me still.
Right.
And I use that with different font faces.
I remember the first time I thought branding to myself was in the back of the plane. They had one of those magazines that you flip through, and there was like a Ritz-Carlton ad, and it like struck me, and I was like, how would I want my image to project if it was in this magazine, if that's what I was flipping through? And that was it. So I really emulated the idea that if I was going to have a visual representation of me, I wanted it to look expensive. The unfortunate part about that, which I realized early on, is that tends to lean towards thinner fonts, serifs or something, such. And so I made a switch later with the logo that I have now. I made it about 2 years ago because as much as I love my old logo, the new one, I needed it to stand out bigger on smaller things. So that's one thing that's super important when magicians are thinking about creating another logo, is the visibility of it. I mean, you don't have to have a fancy, like, cliched element to it that says magician. You can just arrange the words nicely on top of each other and minimize the space. I'm a geek, but just by doing it, I don't geek out about the technology, the terms. I think that's kerning.
The kerning, the space between the letters. Yeah.
And that you can do that in Microsoft Word. You can do that in Google Docs. You can do it in everything. You just
Illustrator, Corel, whatever sort of neat. Canva, right? That's one of those free things. You can create logos on Canva now.
Oh,
too. Yeah, or Wix. Wix offers free logo stuff.
Wix is incredible. I've moved every single one of my sites over to Wix.
I designed logos for like 10 years for like various companies, and I still do it too, and things like that. But sometimes you can just get away with a simple font, just a font face, and dig deep, like go a little further, do some research.
Right.
Like we're entertainers. Right. So look at comedians' logos, but whatever your brand, like maybe you're a kid's magician, but you're kind of like a modern day superhero. So how do superhero logos look? What do comic book logos look? But like today's comic book logos, because you're not advertising to a kid in the 80s, you're advertising to a kid in 2019. So what does Justice League today look like? Not like our retro comic books, or like who are you and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's really a great point to emphasize, I think, is that you've got to see what's the audience that you're seeking. You've got to really know what they're accustomed to. Because if it's too out of field, or the design looks too modern or too outdated, then they'll immediately dismiss you, just immediately.
Right, like you can't just throw up a Comic Sans.
Right.
Or something like that.
I have a big pet. That is a pet peeve of mine. I've been ranting about that forever and a day.
Yeah, and it's the same thing as the top hat and the wand. Like, does your show really have a top hat and a wand in it? Then maybe that's okay. You can have that in your logo if that's a huge part of it.
Right.
But when you design a logo and then you look at something like even like a health food store, you might just throw like a little leaf on it.
Right.
So maybe you just have an accent of a playing card, or like a star, or just something very simple. But maybe you don't need the icon. Don't worry about the icon. Right. Just have a typeface that looks nice. Make your first name bold, your last name not bold, or flip it.
Right.
Try the other way. Right.
Right.
That's totally fine.
Whatever like the most unique element is of the name, that's where you dig in. If you've got a Q in your name, you can start play with the Q. But realistically, if you're new at magic, it's not essential to have a logo. It's just essential to have nice looking material, because your main point is to just work as much as possible. And do you need a fancy logo to work? Not yet. I mean, no. And not only that, especially at the beginning, if your goal is to just get as many shows under the belt, you should be more focused on booking the shows than necessarily focusing on the logo. But also, you might not know quite who you are yet, too. So you don't want to attach yourself to a logo that, you need to commit a little bit to a logo. You can't change it every 3 years. Or you can't change it frequently. You should really adapt to something, or otherwise people just become annoyed with it, and you'll have no brand recognition, and so you really got to commit. So give yourself some breathing time. Don't rush into a brand on a logo.
At first, if you want, right? Like you could just take a look in like your bedroom or on your desk or on yourself, right? Like at the logos and the magazines and the things you look at, and see the style of art that you enjoy. Like if you are into skateboard art and, you know, I don't know, punk rock music and things like that. Right now there's like a certain style of the kind of grunge font mixed with thin typefaces that are maybe longer and stretched. Maybe you want to play with that you want to do. Maybe you're into more of like an artistic, you know, natural, hand-drawn, flowing kind of like sign painter kind of look, like this kind of like, you know, old baseball style thing. Maybe that's what you wear a lot of, like you like these sports things. Maybe you put that in your logo. Try these, like, you know, these hand-painted fonts. Try that at first, because that's kind of a representation of you.
Right.
Maybe the sports in that logo comes out in your pattern, everything like that. And the same with superheroes. Maybe you're doing like a bolder face that's a little more rigid kind of thing. Or like what you said when you first got introduced to like the high end, you're going to do serif fonts, these thinner, like these watch fonts kind of things. Yeah.
That's exactly it.
A key thing though, when you make a logo, you got to make sure that logo can be small on a business card and like big on a billboard.
Scalability.
It's got to be big and small. You don't want to make it too complicated. And you got to make sure that when it's really small on a business card that you can still read your name. Right. So like, don't add too much extra, because you just need your name. You need your name, right?